Welcome to the Double Game Week 24 live stream. And this is going to be a little bit of a hectic one for those that have not seen the news. We've got a lot to catch up on with double game weeks with assistant managers. So we're just going to take a nice, calm, deep breath a minute. Just compose ourselves because it does feel like this is one of the most hectic game weeks we have had in a long old time. So hopefully on the stream we can just bring a little bit of peace in the world of FPL right now and hopefully come to some logical conclusions on what to do, because as of right now I still do not know exactly what is the best play for our teams, but hopefully as a collective we can come together with some sort of solution. So I hope you guys are doing well wherever you're tuning in from in the world. Let me know in the chat where you're tuning in from, what are your plans, any questions, get them in the chat, because feels a little bit chaotic right now, but who doesn't love a bit of chaos in FPL? This assistant managership was kind of crazy in itself, let alone chucking on top this double game week 25. I think a lot of people were content with just going triple captain Mo Salah, happy days, and be done with it. But it feels like right now, the general consensus are managers moving away from triple captain towards the assistant managership. That feels like the common consensus right now. And of course, we are going to deep dive into the pros and cons of all the good stuff. So as always, if you're enjoying it, make sure to drop a like on the stream. It's always massively appreciated. And if you are watching, not already subscribed, do make sure you do smash the subscribe button. So Alan Lixie in the chat already asking a question. Who would you bench between Clivert, Foden? Just activated my system managership on Slot. Who would I bench between those two? Well, if I'm paying 9-odd million for Phil Foden, it probably still will be Phil Foden. Otherwise, I'd be asking myself, why do I own him? I know that he has a tricky game against Arsenal, but that money could be used so much better in your team. I think I would be compelled that I have to start him. Morning, Pete. Hope you're doing well. Anton saying, who to bench between Gabriel, Hall and O'Shea? Now, of course, Gabriel up against Man City is the toughest of the fixtures, but can we actually be in a world right now where we start O'Shea over Gabriel? You know that if Arsenal do kind of scrape a 0-0 against Man City, that is going to really hurt the overall rank. I'm still very biased. I probably would go to bench O'Shea, even though the fixture is much better, of course. And guys, keep putting your stuff in the chat. I do want to drop a little bit of a poll and see which chip are you using this game. Which chip are you using in game week 24? I'll be really, really curious to know. So we got assistant manager. We have got the triple captain. I mean, is anyone playing the wild card? I'll put it in and then I'll put no chip if you are one of those. And I do have to say, for those managers that are planning on going on no chip, I think it is a very brave strategy. The reason being is that there is going to be so many chips active this game week with triple captain, with assistant manager. You just need to note that if you aren't using a chip this week, your team has to have an unbelievable week in order to have almost an average week in general. So just be cautious of that. If your team looks great, if you're going to go without it, just remember there is going to be a lot of chips activated this game week. I can see we got a super chat here from Scott. Scott, firstly, mate, massively appreciate it. I know you're regular on these streams, so I do really appreciate the super chat, mate. Very generous. So, Morning, just bought in Mbeumo for Gordon, which took a -4 hit. Took a -4 hit to drop Gakpo for Visser. Hit the manager chip for Slot. Currently top 12k. Thanks for your help. Oh, Scott, I don't think there's a question there. So that is just super generous in terms of the super chat. But in terms of your moves, in Mbeumo for Gordon, I do like that move. And you may have done that before the whole Game Week 25 announcement. I imagine you did. I think that move in itself is good. On reflection, if you knew the Game Week 25 news, some managers wouldn't have made that. Now, in terms of the Gakpo for Visser hit, I like the move. I think managers are going to sleep better at night when they do go for the assistant manager chip on Arne Slot as opposed to David Moyes. And I think it's a good time for us just to get into some of this stuff right now. Now, I haven't prepped any slides necessarily because obviously it's all moving parts right now and I want this to be as flexible and free flowing as possible. But we might bring out the whiteboard on this stream, so we might get that out and have a little bit of a discussion on the permutations, which might be a little bit chaotic. We'll see how that goes right now. But Scott, again, thank you, mate, for the super chat. And if I did, of course, miss anything on that one, mate, please do drop another question. Do not put a super chat. It's generous enough as it is, my friends. So what we're going to do right now is just take a look at the whole assistant manager chip situation, because firstly, we need to get a few rules established. Let's get a few rules in place firstly. So, the assistant manager chip. Very, very important right now. If you're one of those managers that is still deliberating using the assistant manager chip, you need to remember that you're not using a free transfer to do it. So a lot of managers are saying, I've only got one free transfer and I still need to activate the assistant manager chip. You won't use a free transfer in that instance. What you will use a free transfer for, which it states here, is your initial manager selection will not cost a transfer. However, any further manager transfers will either cost a free transfer or a -4. So this is why I'm slightly concerned for some managers out there. As you can see on the far column there, in terms of ownership, which I'm going to change now, 47% to go for Arne Slot, 34% to go for Moyes, 4% on Iriola, 2.9% on Emery. So I know for a fact, when this first came out and managers used the chip, they just picked any old manager thinking that, like a wild card, you can just do something and then change it as many times as possible up until the deadline. That isn't the case with the assistant manager chip. So when you do activate it, make sure you are picking the manager you want. Hence why I haven't activated it yet, because I still don't know if I want to have David Moyes or if I want to have Arne Slot. So that is really important, that you need to know who you want to go for. So let's cover off Arne Slot first and foremost. And guys, let me know in the chat if this is a little bit too zoomed out. I will try and zoom it in. It's because I've got FPL team up as well that we're going to use alongside this. So do let me know if this is really hard to read on your mobile device, on your iPad, on your PSP, whatever you do use right now. Imagine if you use a PSP. So Arne Slot currently, and rightly so, probably the most owned manager as an assistant manager. Now, why is he so popular? Let's talk about that first and foremost. So the double game week isn't necessarily fantastic. It's away against Bournemouth and it's away against Everton. So, of course, I think there's a world where they draw that game against Bournemouth and they win against Everton. So, I still think Liverpool, of course, are going to win one of these two games. If they win both, nobody would be surprised. Now, we need to remember how points are scored as an assistant manager, because if you go for Arne Slot, you are taking out one of the biggest aspects of the chip, and that is going to be the table bonus here. So I'm just going to keep that highlighted, but we'll go through the initial stuff first. If your team wins, so if Liverpool win, regardless, they will get 6 points. If the team draws, they'll get 3 points, and every goal scored is 1 additional point. So for example, if Liverpool were to beat Bournemouth 2-0, they'll get 6 points for the win. They will get 2 additional points for the goals scored, so that'll be 8 in total. And you'll get 2 points for a clean sheet, which will be 10 points. And you can see how that was scored here in game week 23, just to give you an understanding. Liverpool won 4-1, so they got 6 points for the win. They got 4 additional points for the goals scored. Didn't get any points for a clean sheet. That is how the 10 was scored in game week 23. So hopefully that makes sense there. The reason why some managers aren't tempted by Arne Slot is because of the section that I've just highlighted here. Because Liverpool are top, there is no team that are 5 places above them. And you can see here, if your manager plays a team that is 5 places or more above them in the Premier League table in that game week, you will get 10 additional points if they win the game, and you will get 5 additional points if they draw. So as you can see, if Everton were to beat Liverpool, and it is very, very, of course, I'm not going to say unlikely, because some people have gone for David Moyes, you will get 16 points for the win. And of course, in order to win, you're going to have more goals than conceded, so you'll get a couple of points for goals scored. And all of a sudden, you get the monster haul that a lot of managers are chasing. And this is a perfect example here of why David Moyes got 19 here. So David Moyes beat Bournemouth 1-0. David Moyes beat Bournemouth 1-0. So in this instance, he would have got 6 points for the win. But because Brighton were 5 or more places above Everton, he got 10 additional points for the win. And of course, a point for goals scored and 2 points for the clean sheet. So basically, managers that are going for David Moyes are chasing what happened in game week 23. And all you need is one of these weeks and you have basically hit the jackpot. with David Moyes as your manager. So for game week 24 in isolation, I understand why managers are chasing the upside in David Moyes. I think it is really, really exciting. We also need to remember the price difference. David Moyes is currently $1 million cheaper than that of Arne Slot. Those asking a few things know the prices don't change like players, so these managers are locked in at their specific price points. And of course, if you were to sell a manager, it will incur a free transfer or a points hit. So there is $1 million difference, which is really, really important. And the final thing that we need to remember about managers is that if you're in a position like myself, where you've got 3 Liverpool, Alisson, Trent and Salah, I can't activate Arne Slot as my manager unless I sell a Liverpool player, because Arne Slot counts as a 3rd Liverpool spot. However, because I've only got Mikalenko and Ndai, for some reason I've got those 2, in my Everton selection, I can activate David Moyes without making a transfer in my team. Another reason why some managers are tempted to go to David Moyes, because they don't feel like they want to own 3 Everton in their starting 15 players, but they want to keep their triple Liverpool. Now, in my instance, I think it's more tempting to go to Arne Slot, because I think we all know that Alisson is probably the 4th or 5th best pick in that Liverpool triple up. So me going to someone like Pickford and then bringing in Arne Slot does improve the team. However, if you're in a position where you have Trent, Salah and Gakpo, and you're selling Gakpo as part of a -4, I understand why some managers are a little bit worried about that situation, because then you're thinking to yourself, oh, but then if Liverpool do win, Gakpo could be involved in the goals and are missing out on a huge haul. Whereas Alisson, I feel like, is 6 points or is 2. So I don't really feel like I'm getting huge gains from him. So hopefully that's covered off some of the stuff here. What I'm going to do right now is just end the poll, because I can see 74% are going for assistant manager, 17% triple captain, 8% on no chip. Again, very brave if you go no chip, 1% on wildcard. So what I want to do now is just pop a quick poll in to see who is your assistant manager. So if you're not activating your assistant manager, maybe you could, if you wanted to, just put a comment saying who you would if you were in a position in that situation as going for it. So I'm only going to put 2, because I really don't understand the situation with managers going anyone outside of Slot and Moyes. So while you guys are putting in that, we need to talk about the elephant in the room. And that, of course, is going to be double game week 25. So what I'll do while this is up on your screens right now is also try and get up a tweet from somebody, probably Fantasy Football Scout, quite good at this, and see what we got. Give me 2 seconds, guys, because I haven't actually got the permutations up. Permutations, who do I think I am? But I'm just trying to find them on another tab a minute. Give me literally 2 seconds. So here is your reminder here. Double game week 25 is happening. So let's have a little bit of a situation here. Just going to make myself a little bit bigger so you can see me in the corner. And again, for those that are tuning in right now, if you want to drop a like on the stream, massively appreciated. So with double game week 24, with Liverpool or Slot and Moyes, everybody's tempted to go there. But the reason why it's even more tempted to go for Arne Slot is because of these outcomes here. So if Liverpool were to beat Spurs in the second leg of the EFL Cup, and I think we all, if we were betting people, would go for that situation. I think we would bet on Liverpool overturning the deficit in the second leg. It will mean that Liverpool and Villa will double in game week 25, which is massive, because then you'll have Arne Slot in game week 24 and you will have Arne Slot in game week 25, both being double game weeks. That's huge. If Spurs were to actually get to the final and keep, obviously, that result positive, then it will be Spurs and Fulham doubling in game week 25. Now, if that situation arises, I understand why some managers are tempted to maybe go for Moyes as their assistant manager in 24. The reason being is you chase the upside in David Moyes in game week 24, and then in game week 25 you move sideways because you're going to want to sell Moyes regardless in 25, because of course he doesn't have a double, to either Ange or Marco Silva. Whereas if you go for Arne Slot, you're sacrificing a Liverpool player in your outfield. He then doubles in 24. You're going to get to game week 25. If Liverpool don't progress to the final, you're then going to want to sell Arne Slot, but you won't have triple Liverpool for the Wolves game at home. So you are really hedging on the fact that Liverpool are going to progress to the final of the EFL Cup, which I still think they will. Finally, if Arsenal were to get to the EFL Cup final and overturn the 2-0 deficit against Newcastle at St James's Park, then Arsenal and Chelsea will double in game week 25. So it's a lot to digest right now. But what I'm trying to say is this. If you think Liverpool are going to beat Spurs in the second leg and get to the final, I think it does make sense to go for Arne Slot as your manager, because you get double game week 24 and you get double game week 25 with him as your manager, which is kind of a win-win. And then in game week 26, you just sell him for a manager depending on your risk appetite. You go for Arteta and you go for the easy win against West Ham, or you go for an upside chasing pick like Southampton at home against Brentford. However, if we get a position where you go for David Moyes and the madness happens where Spurs actually do beat Liverpool, then you can go sideways very easily to Moyes or Ange. So what I want to do is put up kind of like a bit of a visual understanding here of what it could look like. So we've got this courtesy of FPL team, and they are collaborating with Planet FPL. Make sure you do follow both. You can see very clearly here, based on the bookies odds, we're in a position here where it'll be double in 24, and then Villa will double in 25 at home against Ipswich and at home against Liverpool. And then in game week 25, Liverpool will play Wolves and Villa. So if that situation happens, Liverpool gets to the final, there is going to be a big temptation to go to Emery. And it's another reason why if you go for David Moyes, game week 25, you just jump over to any of Emery if Liverpool get to the final, or you go to Ange or Marco Silva, which are both exciting situations. So there's a lot to unravel, guys. There's a lot to unravel. I'm going to go into the comments now because I feel like I've been talking for a while, and hopefully when we get into the comment section, it will help flow what has been missed in what I have discussed. And as always, if you are enjoying it, guys, please do drop a like on the stream. So Norris is saying he took Moyes as assistant manager. Is that wrong? No. And what we need to say is this. Anybody who's providing an opinion on the assistant managership is doing it from a biased perspective because they are doing it based on their own team situation. If someone's got 2 Liverpool, of course they're more tempted to go for Arne Slot. If someone's got triple Liverpool, they might be more tempted to go for David Moyes. It is one of those sort of things. So do remember, people are biased in their thought processes, myself included. Jack saying made the transfer Wood and Gordon to Watkins and Kluivert. Thoughts? Yes, I do like those moves. The reason being is Kluivert in fantastic form right now, and Watkins is now looking brilliant with John Duran now leaving. It basically is just Watkins in for the foreseeable future, and that is it. Bench Semenyo or Rodgers. I think if I owned those two, I probably would bench Semenyo, especially if I was playing the assistant managership, and if I was in a position where I was going for double Liverpool defence. A lot of people are voting in this poll, and we're currently at 51% Moyes, 49% Slot. And what we will do in a second is bring up my team, just to give you a living example of what we could do with both decisions. Who to bring in with 3 transfers of 1.7 in the bank? I would need to see your teammate. Should I start Gabriel or Hall? Look, I think the logical pick is Hall. But of course, you need to understand that Gabriel's ownership is still going to be quite big, or at least Arsenal's defensive coverage. Marcus saying, want to use assistant manager, but have to do hit for Moyes or 2 for Slot. So if you're looking to just do 1 hit for Moyes, or you're going to do 2 hits for Slot, I would just do the hit for Moyes in that situation. Lelex saying, Hall to Mikalenko to get money to buy Moyes, already have triple Liverpool. Don't love it on the face of it, but of course you are getting a double for Mikalenko, so I think you're going to need an assistant manager regardless this week. So yes, I would be tempted by those moves. Max is saying, should I do Diaz to Gakpo for a -4? I don't really know how that move works because, of course, Gakpo is a forward. So please do let me know on that one, mate. Somebody says, shout out to Nacho for the content matey levels this game. Thank you very much, Samuel. But of course, there are some big content creators putting out some unbelievable work. So I think it is testament to them boys who were on it last night. I couldn't bring myself to do so because I had no idea what I was doing last night. It would have just been a bumbling mess, honestly. Scott, again, hope you're doing well, mate. Planning to bring in Clivert next week for Ahmad, but this may change depending on doubles, i.e. Rodgers. Any advice? Yes. So, guys, for those that are looking to make transfers, maybe I'm going to call it luxury transfers. I really do think holding off for one more game week is really important. As we discussed already, we are going to have an understanding of who doubles in 25 midway through double game week 24. So, for example, if you're tempted to make a luxury move like Gordon to Mbeumo, I think that's absolutely fine. But if we then get the news, of course, that Liverpool progress to the final, I think Morgan Rodgers and Watkins become absolutely not essential, but very, very, very tempting picks because they will double in game week 25 and they play Chelsea at home in 26, which I really don't think is a bad pick for offensive assets. The problem with piling on Villa, of course, is that they are then going to blank in game week 29. So it might actually force you more to use your free hit in game week 29. So please do be aware of that one. Okay, guys, keep putting the stuff in the chat. Please do. I'm going to get to my team just to give you a bit of a living example because I do think it is worth doing that right now. And guys, honestly, I still have no idea what I want to do. So I'm using FPL team here for this example. What I need to quickly do is just put in the transfers that I have already made. So give me literally 30 seconds. Because I have bought these players at different price points, so I need to make sure I am not messing up the... So like, for example, I bought Mikalenko at 4.3, so I'm just amending that. So this is how my team is currently looking. Of course, I've had the really annoying news that Eze is now ruled out for game week 24. A lot of people panicking, of course, because the expected date return of Eze, let me put it up on your screens here, is, you can see here, expected back 15th of February, which sounds ridiculous. But we need to remember, of course, that once game week 24 has come, it's 2 weeks until the next deadline. So the reason it says the 15th of Feb is because that is the next game week. So I'm actually not panicking right now on Eze because, yes, it's frustrating I don't get the Man United game. But then when I actually look at it, game week 25 at home against Everton, perfectly fine. Then we got Fulham away in 26. Okay, not ideal, but I would happily play him. And then we got Villa and Ipswich. So I actually think Eze, if I can keep him, is perfectly fine to keep for the foreseeable future. But of course, we will depend on what moves I make with my team. So let's use my team as an example. I'm tripled up on Liverpool, Alisson, Trent and Mo Salah. And I have got double Everton in Mikalenko and in Ndai. No idea why I've got those. So a couple of outcomes here. I could either go for David Moyes completely free, because I've got the money in the bank. I've currently got 1.1 million. Moyes is 0.5, so I can afford him. And it wouldn't make a transfer. So, for example, let's just show you what it would look like. Where is my boy Moyes? Here he is. So, if I was to make that move, as you can see what's happened, it's taken 0.5 million out of my bank, hasn't incurred a transfer, and David Moyes is now in as my third Everton pick. And this team will look like this, which I think is absolutely fine as a team. Of course, then we are chasing the upside with David Moyes. Now, if we were to keep this team, which I think is definitely possible, then going into game week 25, the team would look like this. And because David Moyes is away against Crystal Palace, no double game week, the one thing that we need to remember is that I will then have to use a free transfer to get rid of David Moyes. So if we make the assumption that, let's say, Liverpool get to the final, the manager that I really will want is going to be Emery. The reason I'm going to want Emery, and let's say we get rid of David Moyes here. Where is my boy Emery? Is because these are, of course, projected fixtures. We will get Ipswich at home, which could be loads of goals. And then we've got Liverpool at home, an opportunity for the table bonus. And that is why there is a real temptation to go for this strategy. So Emery could come in for game week 25. It uses one of my free transfers. And then it is a case of how the rest of my team looks. So in an ideal world, we say to ourselves that Eze is going to be available. So Eze comes in, the rest of the team looks perfectly fine. However, if there is going to be a double for Aston Villa, there is going to be a real temptation to bring in, of course, Aston Villa assets in the shape of Rodgers and in Ollie Watkins. Now, in my situation, I think there is going to be more of a focus on bringing in Rodgers as opposed to Ollie Watkins, I think, because it makes better structure with my team. If Eze is out, then simply Eze down to Rodgers makes tons of sense, and it really does help with the budget in this team. So that is how a David Moyes situation would play out. What we need to do now is show you how I would look if I was to go for Arne Slot. Sorry, a lot of things going on in my head right now. So let's show you an example here. If I was to go for Arne Slot, you can see here that it's raised. I have too many Liverpool picks because I've got Slot, Alisson, Trent and Mo Salah. Now, I appreciate that I'm probably in a bit more of a luckier position, in the sense of I have probably the worst triple up. Maybe Konate's worse, in that if I had Gakpo, I think I'll be very tempted to keep him. I think I'll be very, very loath to sell him. But when I have someone like Alisson, what I can easily do this week is do Alisson to Pickford as a very, very simple move. And what it does, it means I've now got another doubler in Pickford, and I've also gained Arne Slot. But as you can see, the problem that a lot of managers are missing is that what does this do for future game weeks? So as you can see, that now leaves me 0 in the bank. And while that looks fine, people are probably like, oh, naturally, that's great. You've got enough to get Arne Slot. What that means is that for future game weeks, or the next 2, I really, really am tight for budget, which is going to be a bit of a concern. So I think the team would then look like this. I would have to stick with it. There would be no moves to bring in people like Mbeumo. And of course, one less transfer, which is not ideal for game week 25. So if we were to come into game week 25, and again, we have to make the assumption that Liverpool get to the final because we've done it with the previous example. I would keep Arne Slot in the team 100%. Pickford, of course, away against Crystal Palace. Not ideal, but it is what it is. Could he pick up saves in that game? Yes. I think the rest of the team looks fine. We got double Liverpool for the double, and we got Slot. What we don't have in this team is Aston Villa assets if we were to go there. Now, with my 2 free transfers, once again, a very easy move would be Eze, if he is out, down to someone like a Rodgers, or a very easy move of Gordon down to Rodgers. And that one probably makes a bit more sense. And that way, it frees up 1.8 million in my team to go different directions if I want to. So you can see here that both moves are actually decent. It just comes down to whether I want the table bonus for David Moyes and I really chase the upside. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. I'll be super interested to know. Let me go back into the chat here and see if I've missed any important notes that are going to benefit this, of course. So Emmos was saying Moyes makes the most sense, which, yes, I do think he makes the most sense in terms of a value perspective. And of course, with managers having triple Liverpool, then you're selling a Liverpool asset. So I think we need to play out a scenario in our head here of what does the assistant manager do for your team that the triple up that you currently own does not. So let's use my current team as an example here up against this team, which I am tempted to move towards. Hopefully that makes sense. So in this double game week in isolation, let's play out a world in which Liverpool beat, let's say a best case scenario here, because I don't think Liverpool are going to beat Bournemouth 5-0. Let's say in the best case scenario, Liverpool beat Bournemouth 3-0 and Liverpool beat Everton 3-0. Could we see that happening? I think we could. I think we definitely could see that happening in this situation. So the absolute best case scenario is that Liverpool beat Bournemouth 3-0, which would be 6 for the win, 3 additional for goals scored, 2 additional for a clean sheet. So you would get, in both of those games, you would get 11 points. I think that's everything. Just a reminder of the point scoring system. So you get 6 for the win against Bournemouth. You'd get points, goals scored by each team, 1 per goal. So let's say Liverpool score 3 against Bournemouth. You get 3 for that, and you get 2 for that. So you're basically getting 11 points in the Bournemouth game, and you're getting 11 points in the Everton game, 22 points. If you weren't to go for Arne Slot, how many would my players accumulate here? Well, you got 22, And then, of course, we're going to get the Trent points and we're going to get the Salah points. What does Alisson get over this period? Well, it'd be back-to-back 6-pointers, wouldn't it? So I would get 6 for the clean sheet, 6 for the other clean sheet, 12 points. So effectively, we have got Slot versus Alisson, basically a 10-point swing there. Now, of course, loads of different scenarios can happen, so we do need to remember that. The big swing, of course, is Moyes. Because if Moyes gets himself a table bonus, then it really is going to massively impact the game. And it is going to be the difference between managers failing. Now, what I want to ask you guys here is this. Do we agree that the floor for Arne Slot is a lot higher than that of David Moyes? So, for example, could Everton lose both of these games? They absolutely could. So, let's say Everton lose 1-0 to Leicester. David Moyes gets you 0 points. And then they go against Liverpool. And when we take away our FPL heads, if I was a bookie and I was taking money, I would expect everyone to bet on Liverpool to beat Everton. And would we be surprised if Liverpool beat them 2-0? Nobody would be surprised at that. So you could theoretically walk away with 0 points from David Moyes. Obviously, it's unlikely, but it also isn't out of the realms of possibility. Whereas with Arne Slot here, how many games have they actually lost this season? Like 1? Like, they're going to win one of these 2. Or at least they're going to draw 1, lose 1, like whatever scenario. So you are going to guarantee yourself points and you're going to get goals regardless. They're going to score 3 goals over these fixtures minimum, is the way I perceive it. So the floor for Arne is a lot higher. It's 0 for David Moyes. Honestly, it is 0. And of course, this floor for Arne Slot, I probably would say, is like, even if he loses both games, they're going to score goals. It's probably 4 points, isn't it, minimum? However, the upside for Arne Slot, as I've just said to you, is 22 points in my head. That's a 3-0 win against Bournemouth. That's a 3-0 win against Everton. I can't see much better than that personally. So that is where I'm putting it at game week 24. 22 points maximum. So what does David Moyes have to do to reach 22 points? Well, if they beat Leicester to 0, let's say they beat them 1-0. They're going to get 6 for the win. They're going to get 1 point, of course, for the goal. And they're going to get 2 for the clean sheet. So that is going to be a total of 9 points. However, then you're going to come into the Liverpool game. Okay. And let's say in this game, they get the draw. Okay. And a reminder of the point scoring here. If they get the draw, which is probably the most likely other than a win, they're going to get 3 points for a draw. But then they're going to get 5 additional, of course, for the table bonus. And then we're going to get, on top of that, at least 1 point. Either they score or they get the clean sheet. So in that scenario, they're going to pick up 9 points. That gives you a total of 18 for this game week. So the best case scenario for Arne Slot is 22. We're going to say here that a possible outcome for David Moyes is 18. You have to remember then he's 0.5 million cheaper and you have your triple Liverpool on top of that, which is really, really important to note. Guys, I've lost my mind. I think you can tell in the chat. I need to get back to the chat to realign my brain. Dr. Willie, if I had Rodgers, do I sell Wood for Watkins? Not this week, no. Not this week. I would keep Wood, play him. I still think he's a good fixture this week for them. Dean saying he done Gakpo to Slot, cannot miss the 4 games. Yes, that is one thing that we need to note, of course, is that we're not in a position right now where we can anticipate Gakpo to play every single game, whereas I think we all know that Slot, of course, is going to be managing all 4 of those games. So that's a big factor. Ahmad or Rodgers to start this game week? I would start of the 2. I probably would go for Ahmad myself. I think it's not worth taking a hit for assistant manager, so I'll triple captain Salah, save an assistant manager till we see who will actually double on 25. No one can be sure what will happen on 25. My doubt is Kluivert or Ahmad. I think if I had Ahmad, I think I would be tempted to start him this week against Palace myself. Charlie's saying, hey, Nacho, it feels like a pivotal moment in the season. I agree. I'm doing Gakpo to Vissa for free to allow Slot worth it. Yes, I think it's fine, that move. If it's for a -4 or -8, then I do think there needs to be some deliberation over it. But no, I think that's absolutely fine going that route. Amado Rogers start, I've covered that one. Hinacho covered that one. Bench one out of Mykolenko, Hall, Rogers, or Gabriel. I think in that scenario, bench one out of Mykolenko, Hall, Milenkovic, sorry. I probably would bench probably Gabriel just, but of course you need to be aware of the ownership in Gabriel and Arsenal. And again, guys, if you are enjoying the stream, please do consider hitting that like on the stream, and of course subscribing is always massively appreciated. Just checking right now to see if there's any sort of carnage in the Twitter world right now, to see if there's anything going on. For those that are wondering, obviously in sense of, yeah, see, a lot of people are going different routes. Some people are going triple captaincy, which is mad. People are going triple captain. Yeah, it's interesting. Very interesting. Yes, Shane saying you have the potential table bonus for Moyes and Emery. So we do have the potential table bonus for Moyes and Emery, but like, what do we actually think that is? Like, do we think realistically there is a chance of a table bonus in this situation? Yeah, like this is what Mohammed's saying. Like, we need to actually put some logical thought right now into our minds. So let's get up Everton's results this season. I know Moyes is in charge, but like, Spurs are flaky as anything, aren't they? And they lost against Villa. So like, this is the form of Everton this season. Okay, just take a mental picture of that. Okay, couple of greens, plenty of reds, couple of greys. Okay, green is what we want to see. Let's put up Liverpool. I'm just going to leave that on the screen. I'm just going to leave that on the screen. One loss against Forest, couple of draws here and there. Now, of course, if you get that draw, you're getting 3 for the draw, you're getting 5 extra for the table bonus. But Everton ain't scoring goals. So it's going to be 0-0 or it's going to be 1-1. That is how it's going to play out. Everton ain't scoring 3 goals, for example. So that is what we need to remember in this situation here. I get the Moyes temptation, and I understand the temptation to go towards it, but I just think we need to put our logical brains on right now and think that Moyes, is he actually going to get the results? Like, you're basically saying to yourself, Moyes, let's get him up. This is what you're saying. I'm not saying I won't go there. So this is the exact same game as what Arne Slot's games are, for example. No table bonus, just a straight out fixture. So that is a normal game. This is the one that everybody wants. But Everton literally average a goal a game, max, honestly, a goal a game. And they're up against one of the best teams in the world who don't concede many goals and have lost 1 game this season. So, like, what is the best outcome here? Yes, if David Moyes does somehow beat Liverpool in this game, then it's going to be 6 points for a win, 10 for the table bonus, which is 16 total. And of course, in order to win the game, you got to score goals. So it could be another 19-pointer. But does anyone actually think that's going to happen? I think we're all chasing the ultimate dream in FPL. And of course, if it does come in, you're telling your grandkids, you're telling your great-grandkids, you're telling everybody about it. But also just think, is it actually going to happen? Now, of course, with Arne Slot, the thing that we need to remember is this ain't a guaranteed win at all. So if you do pick up a draw here, it's 3 points and then a couple of goals. And then, of course, an anticipated win. I don't care what anyone says here. So I get the temptation to chase Moyes. I, for one, like the idea of doing it. But do I really want to go there? I just don't know. Start Mateta or Gordon. I think if you own Gordon, I think you have to play him at home against Fulham. But of course, I would like you to play both in that situation. Sell Van Dijk for Slot or triple captain Salah this week. I've got 3 transfers and Trent and Salah as my other Liverpool assets. Yeah, so in that situation, I think I would be tempted to go Van Dijk out and bring in Slot in that scenario. If I'm getting Robertson out to be able to get Slot in, who would you bring in for Robertson? If you don't have Mykolenko, I think that's a really nice pick to get yourself a doubler in that game week. Should I do Trent out to an Everton defender and play... Okay, so this is the one that I really don't like, because bringing in Slot, as I mentioned, is absolutely fine. We've just played out the best case scenario for him. So the best case scenario for me for Slot, and again, you guys let me know in the chat if you think it could be more, is 3-0 win against Bournemouth, a 3-0 win against Everton. I think that's a realistic possibility, even though Bournemouth has scored a lot of goals. So best case scenario gets you 22 points combined. But if you sell Trent, he alone could rack up a monster haul in this double game week. He's one of the few that I really wouldn't feel confident about selling this week. Whereas my situation where I have Alisson, unless he saves a penalty, his ceiling's really low. It's either a 2-pointer or it's a 6-pointer. And that's why for me, and I'm just going to remind you guys where I'm currently at. My temptation right now, and you can see the summary in the top right corner, I've done Anderson to Mykolenko and João Pedro to Ndai already. Those are done. They were done really earlier on in the game week. But doing Alisson to Pickford then allows me to bring in Slot. I never had Gakpo. I never had, other picks. And my team then looks like this. And I'm pretty content with it. And then going into game week 25, if in the worst case scenario, let's say, Slot doesn't, let's play this scenario out. If Liverpool lose in the EFL Cup final and we have to move it on, Liverpool not progressing to the final means that Spurs and Fulham both have a double. Now, of course, Fulham's game is at home against Forest, and then they will have a home game against Spurs. Ange's game will be... sorry, I've just picked up the wrong game there. No, that's right. Ange's game will be home against Man United and then away against Fulham. I personally would be more tempted probably by Marco Silva in that scenario. So we would do that move. And I've already done the Gordon move to that. Let me just reverse that move. So worst case scenario, if Liverpool were to lose, I simply do Slot out to Marco Silva, pick up the double game week. The problem is I then only have I'll have 2 Liverpool players for the Wolves game, because of course they wouldn't have the Aston Villa game here, so you'd have to almost delete that from your memory. Am I fine with 2 Liverpool for Wolves at home? Yeah, I'm pretty content with that. I don't think it is an issue, and of course then the focus would be on bringing in a Fulham or Fulham or Spurs pick. Sorry, it's a lot to digest this week. I do apologise. So right now, my plan for those that are watching is quite simple, I think. And that is to do this in the top right corner. Alisson to Pickford, bring in Slot for an assistant manager and just have him for the predicted double-double. Then in game week 25, I reassess with my team and understand, firstly, who's available, and secondly, who doubles. And then we go from there. That is the current plan. I love the upside chase of Moyes, but I just don't know after doing this whether it is worthwhile or not. I just really don't know if that is where I want to go with my team. Just seeing now, right now, if there's any other kind of big stuff going on right now, because I understand that there are a lot of managers out there who are a lot smarter than I am, and maybe they've come up with some sort of magical conundrum here to figure out what to do. And I think it's very evenly split, and I think that's one thing that we need to remember here is some top managers are going for Slot, some great managers are going for Moyes. There is no right answer here in this game. What's the scenario for an Areola win against Liverpool? I'm not sure what you mean there, Master Loom, in terms of a scenario in that situation. Maybe expand in the chat there and let me know what your thoughts are. Right, I'm going to dedicate now just 10 minutes solely to the chat here to get through it, because I know I've been waffling so much. I've been kind of sticking to my tagline. So, we're going to start here from Killian McGrath or Cillian McGrath. If I've missed your stuff before that, please repeat it in the chat and I will get to it. So Killian McGrath is saying, thoughts on getting Mykolenko instead of Greaves? I have Pickford, kind of worried to double up on Everton defence in future. I don't know those. Yeah, so in this situation here, I think it's a classic case of you need to also look beyond game week 24. If you're looking at your team and you're thinking, it looks good for this week, but then after that, I don't love it, then don't make the move. Because I think the upside for Mykolenko is the Leicester game, what we're really expecting from the Liverpool game. I reckon Everton either get a draw or win over Liverpool because it's their last game at Goodison Park. Okay, so yes, I get the logic. And if it happens, absolutely can't knock it. Can't knock it. What I'm going to do right now, so I'm just going to put up the most recent Everton team against Brighton. So, and again, I'm not hating on this at all. This is the most recent Everton team that got the win against Brighton, and fair play for them getting the win. Pickford in goal, Mykolenko, Branthwaite, Tarkowski, O'Brien. I think that defence honestly could cause problems for any team. I think they could easily, pick up a clean sheet against a lot of teams. Idrissa Gueye and Mangala in midfield, Decore in the 10, and Dye, Lindstrom, and it will be Beto up front for Everton. So that is basically the expectation going into the Liverpool game. I mean, it's a bad team in there. It's a bad team. If that team beats Liverpool, I will be astonished. Because Brighton have proved time and time again that they don't do it against the quote-unquote smaller teams. Their style of play benefits good teams. I don't see how that team gets a result against Liverpool. I might be being blindsided maybe. I am a Chelsea fan, so I'm not got any bias in this scenario here. But I'm struggling to understand how that team gets a result against Liverpool's team. Please do let me know in the chat, guys, what your thoughts are. I just can't get behind it as of now. Maybe, again, I'm being a bit biased, the fact that I have the worst Liverpool triple up, and it's very easy for me just to go Alisson out and crack on. It's a very easy combination for me. If I was sat here with Gakpo, then I agree. I think my thought process would be a little bit more different right now. I'm just seeing if there is anything else updated. No, nothing right now. Okay, what have we got next? I'm just going to put up my team there for you guys. As of right now, I haven't made the moves. Van Dijk to Kirkes for a -4 to activate Slot. Would play Milenkovic, not Kirkes this week. Again, I don't mind that move because I think Van Dijk isn't the most powerful player in this double game week. Real question is, what do we think how many Liverpool wins out of the next 5? Again, I just would not be surprised at all if we see them just beat Bournemouth up, beat Everton, they'll win that game. Yes, that could be difficult. That one, I don't think they beat City. I think City are not on an uptick, but I think that is going to be a very, very interesting game. I think they win, draw. But again, I might be being very, very, very narrow-minded right now. Should I start Rodgers over Elanga? I don't know if Rodgers will start after the hat-trick. Rodgers will start every game forever under Unai Emery. So I probably would lean towards Rodgers, yes. Is a -4 of Alisson to Pickford to get Slot worth it? I think for Alisson, yes, I think it is. And the reason why I like Pickford and the reason why I'm tempted to go there is game week 29. Let me fast forward to game week 29 right now. So for those that don't know, game week 29 is anticipated to be a blank game week. Again, these are Planet FPL predictions. They are not concrete. And it is for Villa, Palace, Liverpool, Newcastle to blank in game week 29. Once again, we don't actually know what's going to happen. The reason why I like Pickford coming in for Alisson is because Liverpool will blank. I won't have a goalkeeper if we assume Fabianski is still second in that West Ham team. So it brings in a player for game week 29, which means it doesn't force the free hit if we don't want to go there. So for example, with the players that I currently have, I would only have 2 blank game weekers in Salah and Trent. And we could try to navigate this game week. The reason why I'm not looking too far ahead right now is because, as I mentioned, game week 29 includes Aston Villa. And if Liverpool progress to the final, everybody's going to be jumping on Villa assets for game week 25. And that's just going to cause more problems, because you saw my team here. That doesn't include a single Aston Villa player. So if we suddenly jump in on Watkins and Rodgers, we just added 2 more players who are going to blank in game week 29. So that's why I'm being very flexible right now with my chip strategy. But I also believe very strongly that you have to use a chip in this game week. That is how I'm feeling right now. I also think it is worth noting in terms of, is there a chance to maybe not use the assistant manager chip this game week? Something that I've completely overlooked. So let me just paint out a picture right now for you guys. A scenario that you could do is still triple captain Mo Salah in game week 24. Just forget about the double game week 25 for a minute. Just focus in on game week 24. If you don't think that the double is good for either player, either scenario, triple captain Mo Salah in game week 24, come into game week 25, and originally we were all happy with the assistant manager chip to just use it in one double game week. So the scenario wouldn't have changed if you were to go down this strategy. You would use the assistant manager in game week 25, and you'd be really flexible on where to use it. So for example, if Liverpool were to progress to the final and these were the fixtures, then what you could do, if you wanted to, is sell then that Liverpool player to free up an Arne Slot for your team and have him for 1 week. Or you could just jump in on Aston Villa's Unai Emery as your manager, have a piece of Aston Villa straight away, an opportunity to the table bonus with Liverpool, and then keep your triple Liverpool for game week 25. Then in game week 26, yes, you'd have the assistant manager chip on a single game weeker, but I think there are really good opportunities for certain games here. For example, you could put it on Iriola at home against Wolves. If you wanted to chase some upside, you could put it on Leicester at home against Brentford, or you could even put it on somebody like Southampton at home against Brighton. There are opportunities here for an assistant manager chip. And then in game week 27, I think there are also opportunities in this game for some table bonus if you wanted to go there. I think Everton at home against Man United could be the David Moyes slam dunk that we wanted in double game week 24. I also think there is going to be an opportunity for goals in this game week that maybe other managers can't get to. So there's lots of different opportunities here. I think I am going to play the assistant manager chip though. Is Gakpo captain too risky? I think it is, because Salah's ownership is going to be ridiculous. So you do need to remember that. Bournemouth form's good. Yes, absolutely. Bournemouth could do fantastic this week against Liverpool. And I do think the triple captaincy on Salah is still a viable move. I still think managers can do that and get away with it. I am very interested to see what managers out there are doing right now, though. I see a lot of people going for Moyes, which is really interesting. It's really interesting to see what people are doing right now. Start one, Cliver, Enzo or Munoz. I would start Cliver to those on penalties, which is a huge factor, Callum. Haley's saying, I have had Foden for all this crazy run and I'm wondering if I should sell him. Is it worth selling him, and should against this Salibulous Arsenal? I think the big thing here, mate, is who is the rest of your team? Who can you buy? Bench Semenyo Rodgers. I think I would try and play Rodgers, to be honest with you. Gakpo to slot for a hit, or triple captain Salah and the assistant manager in 25. Gakpo to slot for a hit. Gakpo to slot for a hit, or triple captain Salah and the assistant manager in 25. I think I probably would go for the Gakpo hit myself. Robinson or Dan Burn to play this week, I probably would go for... Is Dan Burn even going to play? That's the big problem here. I don't know whether Dan Burn will play, but I don't fancy Fulham against Newcastle, so I probably would take the punt on it. Hey mate, FPL Tom sent a few lads here, mini raid. Oh no, FPL Tom, that is amazing. Thank you, mate. Sorry, I've only just seen that now. I will have to drop you a message later, mate, in regards to that. I really appreciate that in terms of the mini raid. For those that don't follow FPL Tom, make sure you are subscribed. Top content creator. Always dishes out the quickest content on the Sunday ever, or Saturday, I believe. It's fantastic. So anybody that's looking for kind of like the most up-to-date content, make sure you do check out FPL Tom. He's absolute class. Have you played your wildcard? Henrik, have I played my wildcard? No, I haven't yet. Is Wood to Visser a good option to bring in Moyes? Is Wood... Yes, I do like that move. I think Visser transfer rumours have kind of dissipated now. So I do think he is a good option with these upcoming fixtures here. I'm just going to put up my current team for you guys just to know what it's looking like without the assistant managership activated. Joe saying start 2 of Semenyo, Hall, Gabriel and Pedro. I'm guessing that's Jean Pedro. I definitely would start Hall, and then it comes down to Semenyo versus Gabriel versus Jean Pedro. I really hate Jean Pedro, so I wouldn't start Jean Pedro myself. So it probably would be Gabriel versus Semenyo, and Semenyo has a really tough game. Gabriel has a tough game. I probably would lean towards Gabriel, and you could get that bullet header possibly. Aslan's saying, what a name by the way. Hello mate, could I ask whether I should use assistant manager for Slot or add Gakpo to my team? I am also considering using wildcard. So if you're in a position right now where you only have 2 Liverpool, then I think it's quite obvious you go for Slot as your assistant manager. Wood to Ndai and get Moyes, or Gakpo to Ndai and get Slot. Love the graphic by the way. Wood to Ndai and get Moyes, or Gakpo to Ndai and get Slot. If it's part of a free transfer strategy, Ahmed, the thing is, it really comes down to what your preference is. So we've spoken about this on the stream a lot. It all comes down to what is your risk appetite. So just a quick reminder. If you go, let's just go through the stuff here again. If you go for David Moyes, the pros, he's cheaper. And he offers table bonus, which is really important. And I think you don't have triple Everton. I imagine most people watching this, so you don't have to sell a player in your squad to get him in. Those are the pros of David Moyes. The table bonus, the cheap price, and the fact you don't have to sell anybody in your team to activate the chip. The downside, you're going to have to sell him in game week 25 because Everton won't double, and there's no world you're going to keep a single game week manager when, of course, we have got a double for Villa, possibly Spurs, Liverpool. So you're going to want to chip out David Moyes, and I think then you'll probably want to go to Unai Emery, and then you're really chasing the upside of Unai Emery and what he does possess. So I do like that strategy with David Moyes there. Of course, the downside is that, are they actually going to win all their games? Everton is still a bottom half team, and I don't think that's changing the David Moyes. Yes, they picked up a couple of good results, but I also still think they are going to have bad results along the way. So we could be in a world where they lose against Leicester and they lose against Liverpool, and then, of course, you are in a problematic situation. You've kind of wasted a game week. Now, of course, Slot is getting a lot of love. Now, what is the situation with Slot? What are the pros? He's a warm, safe blanket because game week 24, you got the double. And I think if we played out this situation 100 times, Liverpool probably win one of these and draw the other one. That's the way I kind of read it right now. Would you be surprised if they win both? No. The other positive is that they are 70% likely to have a double in game week 25 because, of course, Liverpool play up against Spurs in the second leg. Yes, they're 1-0 down, but at Anfield, I think we all anticipate Liverpool to win that. So you're getting Arne Slot for double, huge, and then you sell him in game week 26. But of course, there are some downsides about him. He's more expensive, and you probably have to sell a Liverpool player on your team in order to get Arne Slot in. His ceiling is lower than that of David Moyes. We played out the best case scenario. In my mind, a realistic best case scenario is 3-0 against Bournemouth, 3-0 against Everton. That gives you, in both games, 6 points for the win, 3 points for the 3 goals scored, 2 points for the clean sheet. That gives you 11 in both games, which gives you 22 points overall for game week 24. But of course, the great thing about that is then you have him for the double in 25, and that is going to be Wolves at home, which could be a cricket score. We could honestly see in that game 4-0 Liverpool, which is then going to give you 6 for the win, 4 for the goals scored, 2 for the clean sheets. And then you've got the Villa game on top of that, which again, I could see goals in. So he feels like a warm, safe blanket where the ceiling isn't as high as David Moyes is, but his floor, and what I mean by floor is that what's the worst case scenario, is a lot higher than David Moyes is. The way I've kind of spelled it out, David Moyes' floor is literally 0. He could honestly score 0 in game week 24. And the upside of him is big if they beat Liverpool. But are they going to beat Liverpool? I don't think they are. In Arne Slot's case, the floor is probably like 6 points. And the ceiling is not as high as David Moyes', but around 22 points, which I think is amazing for one game week. That's the way I'm looking at it right now with the two managers. Now, the reason why I can't come to a conclusion right now and say to you, this is the way to play it, is because it's completely dependent on your team. And nobody's used the assistant manager chip before. So we can't really look back at historical data and say, oh, but it made sense to do this or it made sense to do that. It all comes down to your own personal team and structure. Is it worth taking a -12 to get Slot in as assistant manager? No, Sam. If that is the case, you do it on David Moyes and be done. That is exactly a case there where that is too much of a points hit. And then you basically are just negating any sort of benefit that would come with the assistant manager chip in my eyes. In that scenario, it's just not worth it, my friend. Just trying to cover off that. What page are you using to plan ahead? That is fpl.team. Do make sure you check it out. Alexander, Canate to concert and bring in Arne Slot. Canate to concert and bring in Arne Slot. Don't mind it, but of course, if Concert then doesn't play in the double, what I will say about Concert is Villa don't keep clean sheets. They are really poor defensively, so just be cautious of that. FPL Equilibrium, what an amazing name. Morning FPL fan, hope you're doing well, mate. I brought in Gakpo this week and I'm looking to move Gordon on next week. I have one free transfer. Would you prefer Gakpo, Rodgers, Moyes, Cunha or Raul? Oh, God. Gakpo, Rodgers, Moyes, Cunha or Raul, Rodgers, Slot? Cunha or Raul. So I'd prefer in this game week, in isolation, Raul Jimenez still. Rodgers, Slot, or I'd prefer Raul, Rodgers, Slot myself, I think, in that scenario. Gakpo to Vissa and Slot in. I think I've covered that one. I don't mind it if it's a free transfer. Is Vissa to Wood... Is Wood to Vissa from -4 a good option to bring in? Moyes, not as much. Not as much. I don't love it as much. Sorry, I sneezed. Apologies, guys. I should have muted the mic there. How do I get my manager to the top right corner like yours? Because mine is in the bench. Or is it right? Yeah, David, that's fine. You're on the official website. I'm in this position right now where I'm using a planner tool, which is called fpl.team. Would you do Vissa or Mateta to Ndai to free up funds? Young Paps, I don't love either because I think both are good. But I probably would do Mateta down and just go all the way down. Manu's saying, hi, I've maxed out on Liverpool. Then you probably have your decision made for you in that sense. Gakpo over Trent. Liverpool aren't keeping as many clean sheets recently and Gakpo can easily score from the bench. Yes, JC, I do agree. I think Gakpo will be a tough one to sell right now of him being quite influential in that front three. I don't see him being displaced anytime soon. I think his minutes will continue to be good as well. So, yeah, I think, even though it sounds mental, I think I would find it very hard to sell Gakpo right now. Again, I'll be interested to know what you guys are doing in the chat. If you can vote on the poll, if you haven't already. Just seeing on Twitter what the landscape is looking like. And it feels very, very divisive right now. Yeah, it is interesting to see what's going on right now. There's a really interesting tweet that was done by Baker. Let me get it up a minute. I need to kind of figure it out myself. anyone that doesn't follow Baker, he has an amazing podcast, Above Average FPL, which I listen to religiously. It's so good. So this is it here. So this is his tweet, just for a bit of context. So he's put, can I just check? So if you go for assistant manager on Slot, then you get points. Let me try and pause that GIF as well. Then you get points for cleans that you don't want, as the Liverpool defence will be over 100% owned, which, yeah, I probably would agree with that. I think there is going to be a lot of double ups out there for managers. So what he means by that is, if Liverpool in this scenario, like I said, play out the best case scenario and Liverpool win 3-0 against Bournemouth, 3-0 against Everton, then you're going to get 2 points for a clean sheet, while all the other managers who have double are going to get 4 for that clean sheet. So that's really important. So you don't want the clean sheets because you're not benefiting from them with the assistant manager chip. And then the points for goals you won't want because Mo is over 200%. So what he's saying there is, if Bournemouth were to win, if Liverpool were to beat Bournemouth 3-0, and of course in this situation beat Everton 3-0, let's say Mo Salah has 50% contribution in all of those, because his effective ownership is going to be 200% possibly or more, because the triple captains that are being activated in the game, it means that you're also not going to benefit from those Mo Salah goals, because you are going to have 1 point per goal compared to Mo Salah with those that are triple captaining. So it doesn't benefit you either. So really, if you do activate the assistant manager chip and you go for Arne Slot, you basically want Liverpool to win. You want Liverpool to win, but concede, and the goals are scored by really random players like McAllister, Szoboszlai, Darwin Núñez. Let me know, guys, in the chat what you think about that. Let me know in the chat what your thoughts are on that. That's a really interesting point. I'm just going to focus on the few comments that might come through on this situation. Does everyone understand that there? So basically what they're trying to say is, if you go for assistant manager, you get 2 points for a clean sheet, but it doesn't mean anything in the context of the game, because so many managers have doubled up on Liverpool that they're going to get, let's say, 8 points for a clean sheet, because they'll get 4 for Trent's and 4 for Alisson's, and you're only going to get 2 alongside your other defender that you own. So for my case, let's use me as an example. In this situation, Slot is going to get me 2 points for a clean sheet, and I'm going to get 4 for Trent's. So it would be 2, 2, 4 total. So Slot equals 4 over the double if he clean sheets in both. Trent will get me 4, 4, 8. So that's going to be a total of 12 points. But if I was to keep my current team and they were to keep clean sheets, I would get 4, 4, 8 for Alisson, 8 for that, and it'd be 16 total. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? I have to put it out there. I am not, how can I say this? Not the sharpest tool in the shed when it comes to analytics. I'm just going to play myself down now. I'm not the sharpest tool in the world. So I kind of lose my mind on things like this. I just don't have the brain for it. So maybe others understand that more than myself. Let's see what people are saying here. Would you, Jacob's in my brain. Yeah, that's exactly how I'm feeling. Do you mind me, Unicorn, saying, but the Salah goals give you 200% plus a point. So they give you 200% plus a point, which is correct. However, those that have triple captained are going to gain the additional points for the goal being tripled. Is that not right? So Salah gets, what, 3 points for a goal, 4 points for a goal. So whereas I'll get the 4 points doubled, other managers will get the 4 points tripled, but then I get 1 on top, so it won't actually match the triplers. Does that make sense? So if Salah scores, it'll be 4 doubled. I'll get 4 doubled, which is 8 points, plus a point. So I get 9 per goal. Is that right? I get 9 per goal. Whereas triple captainers are going to get 4 tripled, which is 12. So they're actually gaining 3 points on me every goal scored. Does that make sense? Marco's saying, yes, but triple captain is only 2 games. Assistant manager is 5. Yep, that is fair. Oh, we got a super chat here from OP Talent. Firstly, my friend, thank you. I know you've been a regular on streams in the past, so it is awesome to see you on here again, mate. Hope you're doing well. Let's get through your questions. So, got 3 Liverpools and 0 transfers. Okay, not ideal. Triple captain Salah 24. Assistant manager leaves a free transfer for a 25 double player instead of assistant manager Moyes 24, using my only free transfer on assistant manager 25 switch. Good idea. Okay, so OB Talent, let's just get through this a minute. So you currently have no transfers to game week 24. So the move that you're saying you'll do, triple captain Mo Salah, and then when you get to game week 25, obviously you get your free transfer back. You then activate your assistant manager free of a free transfer. You don't have to use a free transfer for that. And then you then use your transfer to bring in a doubler. I don't mind that situation if you're in it. I don't mind that situation, mate, because you've got no transfers. And I think that's why it's a viable move. Triple captain Mo Salah, assistant manager 25 on whoever has the double. I think you're probably not going to go for Slot in that sense because it makes no sense missing on the first double. So you probably go for either Unai Emery or you go for Ange or the other guy, Marco Silva. So yes, I do like that move, mate. Otherwise, you just activate Moyes. But then, of course, you are, like you said, only getting 1 transfer for game week 25, and you inevitably have to use it to sell Moyes to bring in one of those new managers because you're not going to want to keep Moyes. So I get the conundrum. I think what it comes down to, first and foremost, is how does the rest of your team look? Because, of course, having triple Liverpool in game week 25 without Slot is perfectly fine. Like, it's absolutely fine having that week. And then it's a case of who you want to double down on with no transfers in the bank. Yes, if you're content going for the triple captain Salah this week in assistant manager in 25, I actually don't mind it. I know Planet FPL is doing that move as well. I'm not for it because my triple up isn't ideal when I got some transfers in the bank. But yes, I'm actually not against that. I think there could be some upside in that move for the mindset that you've got. Let me know if you've got any other thoughts on that one, mate. I'll obviously try and catch up on that. Yes, do you remember Unicorn saying, but there are only 10% triple captain on Salah, so the points difference is scaled down. Okay, that's a really good point. I didn't actually know what the actual kind of numbers were on the triple captaincy. God, I'm not smart enough for this kind of week. I'm just not. I just need someone to tell me what to do, and I'm meant to be the guy telling you guys what possibly to do, so that's not ideal. Okay, right, I'm just seeing if there's any other stuff going around right now, which I cannot see. And I will have to wrap it up soon, which is a bit annoying. I can't go into the deadline, guys, because I've got to do a TikTok live later. So I will have to wrap it up soon-ish. Also, let me just check something as well, because I've actually got a delivery coming today, and I need to make sure it's not here. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so basically the conclusion is I'm not smart enough to come to the conclusion of what to do, but I don't know what to recommend. The reason being is, guys, it's all carnage and it's all team dependent right now. Yeah, if Liverpool don't win, so let's play out the scenario. If Liverpool don't beat Spurs and we got Slot, and then we get to game week 25, we're going to have to get rid of Slot as our manager, and we're going to have to go to either Ange or Marco Silva, and we're going to be left with no triple Liverpool in 25 against Wolves at home, which is not ideal. So then if you are of the assumption that Liverpool aren't going to progress, just go for Moyes, I think is the way to look at it. God damn. Bruno to Mbeumo, don't mind it, but Man United at home, it's a penalty taker for a penalty taker. And of course, we're going to gain so much information off the back of this double in 25 that will get announced during the double in 24. So I think probably just not making luxury moves like that is probably the way to play it right now. We are probably expecting 2 double game weeks in 33 and 36. If not, we get one, we can play triple captain a single week. Yep, that's fair. Yeah, Gordon, I'm lost in my own analysis, mate. I wouldn't even call it analysis. I'll just call it mumblings of a madman. It's probably the way I would describe it. It is absolute carnage. The one thing I will say about it, though, is that don't do something that you're not happy with, but you're doing it for others. So what I mean by that is, if you're in a position right now where you're watching this and thinking, nah, I don't agree, I want Moyes, please go for that, because you're going to be content in the move that you go for, and everybody's team's different. As I've spoken about with my team right now that you can see on the screens, Slot feels a bit more comfortable in my position because I have Alisson as my third Liverpool, and I just don't really think he is that fantastic. Whereas if I had Gakpo, I feel like I'll be way more inclined to stick with the triple Liverpool and then go for the Moyes combination. Wood to Ndai, Caleb, again, it all depends on your squad. I like the move in isolation, but could I see Chris Wood just, look, like a reminder, Chris Wood's fixture here, home against Brighton, like he could easily just get one of his classic 9 or 12 pointers and he could realistically outscore and die. So I think Wood out is a little bit not as black and white as it should be. Play the free hit or no? No, this is not a week for the free hit at all. Definitely not a free hit. That is the one chip I wouldn't be playing this week. It does not help you in the slightest. Not in the slightest. Yeah, I think it is very, very interesting what's going on right now. I am going to have to wrap it up in a minute. What I will say is, guys, if I had to lock something in right now, I think this is the moves that I would make. So the moves are on the top right. I've done the Anderson, Mikalenko, João Pedro and Die move about a week ago. So that is kind of locked in. The rest of the team here is where I'm looking to go. So Slot in, Alisson to Pickford, gives me another doubler for Everton. If Everton do, what I will say is this, like if Everton do well, like I'm going to get a piece of it here. So, because if Everton concede against Liverpool, like does anybody right now watching this, let me end this poll. Like, does anybody right now watching this think Everton are going to score 2 goals against Liverpool? Like, honestly, like, who scores those 2 goals against Liverpool? I just don't think it happens. So the only way they really win that game, I think, is the only way they win that game is 2-0. I just can't see a world in which they score 2 goals against Liverpool. So the current plan is this: bring in Slot and just be done with it. Bring him in for the week. And then coming into game week 25, I'm going to be honest with you, no idea. There's no point having any plan for game week 25 because, as we've discussed, there are so many different combinations that can happen. We could have Spurs and Fulham be the ones that double. We could have the combination of Liverpool and Villa that double. There's no point thinking about what you're going to do in game week 25. You are going to be at the mercy of those cup results. Anybody that makes an early transfer in game week 25 is a maniac. Honestly, there is no point doing so. But what I do know is that the best case scenario, if Liverpool progress to the final, then the team I am really comfortable with, and I focus on bringing in Aston Villa players for this team, and I've got Arne Slot for that double. Happy days. The worst case scenario, if I was to go down this route and Liverpool don't progress to the final, is that Slot then isn't great for this week. I move him to either Ange or Marco Silva, and then I look to bring in a player from those teams in my starting 11. And of course, I only have double Liverpool for Wolves at home. But Am I that fussed? Probably not. I'm probably not that fussed. I'm still content with that situation. Yeah, so we've got some really good stuff here from Jemima Unicorn with some of the points in the comments here. So a logical brain. So that's saying, if you think Everton will draw/win with Liverpool, then you should choose Moyes. So I'm in the camp where I don't think they will. I think Liverpool win that game. If you love Gakpo, don't want hits, triple captain Salah, and then decide next week, but no, you won't get 5 assistant manager games. Yes, exactly that. So if you love Gakpo, go for the triple captaincy route, and then you can reassess in game week 25. But as Jemima said there, you aren't getting 5 assistant manager games, which is a slight problem. Diaz out to bring in Slot, yes. So in terms of Liverpool players that I would really happily sell is going to be Alisson, Konate, and Diaz. Those are the 3 that I feel very, very content. I think the ones that are having the real headache are going to be the ones that have Trent, Gakpo, and Salah. That's the combination where I totally understand why managers are having problems with their decision making. What is the real benefit of bringing in Moyes? Have 3 Liverpool and can't face selling Gakpo for Slot. What is the real benefit? So Harvey, the real benefit of bringing in Moyes, as we've covered, is this game here. So firstly, it's cheap. Secondly, the game against Leicester is like the Liverpool games. There's no table bonus, but if you think Everton's going to win that game, then you're basically locking in 6 points for a win, 1 for a goal, 2 maybe for a clean sheet if they win 1-0. Happy days. But then the real bonus for him is that if they get a draw against Liverpool, as you can see here, they will get 3 points for a draw, but then they'll get 5 points on top of that for the draw. So straight away, you're getting yourself 8 points for a draw, which is fantastic. So they only have to draw against Liverpool, and you're basically going to outscore what Slot could do in that game. So that's a real upside for Moyes. The downside, you're then going to have to sell him in game week 25 regardless. So you do need to remember transfers in the bank to do so are important. Okay, unfortunately, guys, we're going to have to wrap it up there. I will do my best to post my team in the community section of the YouTube account. You can see it in basically my channel. So if you go to the channel, go to the community tab, you'll be able to see there all of the stuff. If you wanted to keep an eye out on what I'm doing, I will try and post it there. But I do need to wrap up now, so I need to do a few things. I also need to jump on a TikTok live. You can check that out as well if you want to over on TikTok. I will be updating my team there if I make any changes. As of right now, this is the plan. Alisson to Pickford to then free up the funds to bring in Arne Slot as part of my 3rd Liverpool pick, and just hope that Liverpool beat Spurs in the EFL Cup and I get back-to-back double game weeks with Arne Slot, because I am really bullish on Liverpool in this Premier League run that we've got. That's the plan. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. If you haven't already, please do consider being a subscriber. Plenty of content coming, as you can tell. I do apologise for a bit of the carnage on this stream. Usually it's much more flowing, lots more good stuff to show you, but because of all the mad outcomes that we can have, it's been very difficult to be very focused in my thoughts, so I do apologise for that. Thanks so much again, guys. Massively appreciated you on the stream. Have a great game week, and I'll see you real soon. Take care.